14, 15 months into their term.
All right, we're going to have to take a quick break here on AM Agenda. We'll come back to you gentlemen both shortly with more on the issues of Afghanistan and also what Peter Costello is up to. Stay with us.
The symmetrical all-wheel drive Subaru Impreza with 5-star occupant safety, horizontally opposed boxer engine and VDC electronic stability control represents striking value. Now from only $22,990 to $30,490 RRP, plus dealer delivery and statutory charges. If you knew, you'd be in a Subaru.
Burn After Reading on DVD and Blu-ray now. Sharp, hilarious, intelligent.
Big time.
What? Starring George Clooney.
Who are you?
Frances McDormand. And Brad Pitt.
That's cool.
Burn After Reading on DVD and Blu-ray now.
On the next Media Week, the rag trade exposed. It's the digital age. We're buying fewer magazines and newspapers. Now the circulation numbers are in. The winners, the losers, and who's being accused of exploiting loopholes to boost their figures. On Australia's Business Channel.
Welcome back to AM Agenda. US President Barack Obama has announced an additional 17,000 US troops will be heading to Afghanistan. It's his first major military decision aimed at turning around a rapidly deteriorating situation there. Take a look.
I think Afghanistan is still winnable in the sense of our ability to ensure that it is not a launching pad for attacks against North America. I think it's still possible for us to stamp out al-Qaeda, to make sure that extremism is not expanding, but it rather is contracting.
Well, Australia's Defence Minister Joel Fitzgibbon is today meeting his NATO counterparts at a meeting in Poland. Australia has some 1,100 troops in Afghanistan. The US is expected to ask Australia, along with other NATO countries, for more troops. Now, Craig Thompson, first to you. If we are going to stay in Afghanistan, surely, given the US is sending more and others may send more, we're going to have to consider the same.
Well, these are issues that the Defence Minister will be talking about with his NATO colleagues today. For us, it's never been about the absolute numbers that are there. There's a principle there about the contribution that Australia has made as a non-NATO nation compared to, in some senses, the contributions or the under-contributions that have been made by some of the NATO partners. So we'll be very interested to hear today what those NATO nations are going to do, whether there is a request or not. I have no knowledge as to whether Australia is being requested or not to increase its troop numbers, but clearly it's a very important meeting today that the Defence Minister is at.
And Michael Johnson, will the opposition support any increase if indeed the government decides on one?
Look, I think that Joel Fitzgibbon's position that NATO has got to do more of the heavy lifting is spot on, but equally I think that Australia has both a moral and a substantial imposition upon it to perhaps consider, at the very least to consider a request from the American president if that was to come, and I have no doubts that that would come. We are a very strong ally of the United States, and this will be a real test for Kevin Rudd, particularly in light of the Prime Minister saying that he previously always put Afghanistan front and centre over Iraq.
So you think Kevin Rudd will look a bit hypocritical if he doesn't agree to an American request?
I do think that there would be a lot of hypocrisy there. I mean, he has underscored time and time again that Afghanistan was a theatre of major conflict for Australia. It was not Iraq, and I think it's time for him to come good on his word, and we should at least consider it, and I'd be very interested to see how he responds.
All right, we'll see what happens out of those talks today. I also want to talk to you, of course, both about the juicy politics of the week. It's all been on the Liberal side this week with Julie Bishop's exit as Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey's promotion to the job, the news that Peter Costello was also offered the position by Malcolm Turnbull. Michael, who is the best person for the job of Shadow Treasurer?
Well, Joe Hockey's got the job at the moment, and Joe Hockey's one of the smartest guys in the Parliament. He's also one of the most experienced, and to boot, he's one of the nicest blokes around. So I think he's going to do a fantastic job.
Is he the best person for the job?
Well, he's going to eyeball Wayne Swan, and I think he's going to give Wayne Swan a very hard time, as he should, because he is the alternative treasurer, and he will do a marvellous job. And I can say that the entire team is behind him.
That's all nice sentiment, but is he the best person for the job?
I mean,
but is he the best person for the job?
Look, he's a heavyweight in the opposition ranks, and he will do a fantastic job. He's a class act. He's been in cabinet previously. He's got more than a decade in the Parliament. He knows his stuff. He's a former spokesman, and he knows all his stuff.
David, it's Peter Costello is the name they dare not mention, it seems.
What about Mark Habib? I know that Mark Habib's...
Michael's tried very hard to get around not answering your question there. I mean, he even started by saying, well, Mr Hockey's in the position for the moment. I mean, what we're seeing with the Liberal Party is a party that's paralysed by internal division.
Turn it up, Craig.
Whether it's the issue of industrial relations, where they're not quite sure whether they're still supporting work choices or they're going to respect the wishes of the Australian voting public from the last election, whether it's emissions trading.
No, we voted again.
It doesn't really matter.
Our position is very
gentlemen,
clear.
I'll interrupt you there because, Michael, I do want to just get a couple of other answers here.
Sure.
Why do you think Malcolm Turnbull offered the job first to Peter Costello?
Oh, look, I mean, I'm not privy to a private conversation between two men. I don't know if anyone really is. And I mean, let's not forget that Peter Costello is, if not the smartest man in the Parliament, certainly one of the smartest. He is a heavyweight in the Australian Parliament, and
smarter than Joe Hockey.
And his experience is substantial, and his mentorship of newer and younger members of the Parliament is absolutely priceless.
Would you like to see Peter Costello stay or go?
I think that the opposition is poorer for his absence from the front bench, but I'm of the view that anyone who was elected at a general election should serve out their term. I said that in my maiden speech. I'm not really one for by-elections. I think that they should stay, as Brendan Nelson, to his credit, is, and to his reputation, is staying for the full term. That is entirely appropriate and in the interests of his electorate.
Yes, but if you are elected, should you also, and you are serving out the term, should you also answer the call of the leader and go up to the front bench if it's in the interests of the party?
Well, it's in the interests of the party for him to serve his electorate and to hold his seat. Higgins is a seat that anything can happen if Peter Costello was to go. He is the representative. He was elected at the last election, and he should respect the views of his electorate.
And what about Christopher Pyne? There seems to be disquiet in the party about his promotion to manager of opposition business. Was that the right call?
Oh, well, I mean, Chris has also been in the Parliament for quite some time. I don't see who else could have really taken that position. He's got more than a decade's experience in the House of Representatives.
Well, Tony Abbott wanted it, so...
Well, I mean, Tony's got a very busy portfolio as it is, and he's got a vast portfolio that requires all his energy and all his commitment, and he'll fulfil that admirably.
All right, you have faith, though, in Chris Pyne doing that job?
Absolutely.
And, Craig, I'd better ask you